yet. So they've laid the foundation, and obviously the big elephant in the room is how they're going to address the mens rea, or the scienter, which is the nefarious intent associated with Zimmerman's state of mind at the time of this incident. And obviously the overlay of the reasonable doubt is always the standard. And so, you know, one of the things that you say to a jury as a prosecutor is that that standard has not changed. And every criminal defendant that you see held accountable is held to that same standard. And that doesn't mean that there is absolutely no doubt. It means that it is just beyond a reasonable doubt that that interpretation of the facts is what is likely happened in this case. And so, you know, understanding from a trial perspective and understanding from a prosecutorial perspective, beyond a reasonable doubt does not mean that it is insurmountable. There is a challenge, and there is some difficulties in this situation where we have an incident that occurred, and only two people really know what happened on that evening. One of them is dead. The other one, at the very least, is a liar, has been proven by his testimony, and it's going to be really interesting to me to see how the prosecution ties it all together to makes his case and brings all of the circumstantial evidence into focus to allow the jury to make the argument to get beyond the reasonable doubt and hold Zimmerman accountable. So that's what I'm waiting for, and that's what I want to see at the end when it comes time to hear a closing argument.
Seema, I have a question for you, and it involves Tracy Martin, Trayvon Martin's father. How likely is it that we could see the defense call Tracy Martin to the stand? And if they were to do that, do you think that would be a good move for the defense?
Let's look at what Tracy Martin would testify to. Tracy Martin listened to the 911 call, as we know from Detective Serino. Tracy Martin said, no, that's not Trayvon Martin. So your question is a terrific one. Does the defense want to risk putting the father of the beloved victim on the stand and potentially facing a landmine like Dr. Bao was, saying things? Tracy Martin could say things in front of the jury, elicit emotions from the jury, sympathy from the jury that is unexpected. So the defense has to think about, has to weigh the options. Right now we have in evidence testimony from Detective Serino that says Tracy Martin said it wasn't Trayvon. Play it safe. That's enough. Lock it down.
I agree.
We're going to go back into the trial in just a second, but before we do, I want to whip around and see what the attorneys who are here with us think about the state's case. Has the prosecution actually made its case for murder 2 and for manslaughter? Patrick, you first.
Sure. Well, Tori, first on the charge of second-degree murder, I don't feel like the prosecution has made that case. There is clearly a reasonable doubt whether or not Zimmerman had the intent, the mens rea. But on the charge of manslaughter, the lesser charge or the lesser crime here, I think that the prosecution, when you look at all of their 39 witnesses that they called to date, that they have proved that George Zimmerman, or I think they put the evidence out there that he could be convicted of that case. The fear is, though, is there one of the 6 jury members that have reasonable doubt? And that's such a hard burden for the prosecution to meet.
Seema, what do you think? Have they made the case?
Absolutely not. Torrey, I'm drowning in reasonable doubt at this point. Forget about murder 2. That shouldn't even go to the jury. If we're talking about manslaughter, I can name right now 20 reasonable doubts if we had the time, but we don't. So the prosecution has proven one thing, that George Zimmerman is not guilty. Unfortunately, that's what the verdict's going to be.
Paul, what do you think? Is it manslaughter? Is it murder 2, or is it an acquittal?
Look, I mean, you're always optimistic and hopeful, and in a case like this where there's so much sentiment behind whatever this verdict is going to be, I'm clearly rooting for the prosecution. I believe that they've used every tool that they had in their tool shed. It really is just going to come down to how they're going to tie those pieces together and the pitch that they make at the end in their closing to give to the jury. I'm hopeful and I'm optimistic that the jury understands and sees their arguments and holds Zimmerman accountable, and if that gets him to murder Murder 2, then I will be clapping and celebrating for justice with the family.
Lisa Bloom, what do you think? Did the state make their case for Murder 2 or for manslaughter?
Well, I'm not hoping for either side. I'm just following the evidence. Although I will say, Paul Henderson, I love it when you use words like mens rea and scienter. You had me at scienter, my friend, which just means intent. I actually think, having followed the evidence thus far, and we're still in the defense case, and I still have an open mind for what they may put on, but I may surprise you by saying that I think they put on a pretty good case for Murder 2, because it seems very clear to me that when Zimmerman pulled the trigger, he intended to take the life of Trayvon Martin. So we have intent. The only question is whether it's self-defense or not. And the other part of Murder 2 is ill will, hostility, hatred. Well, when you hear the words on the non-emergency police call, calling him an a-hole, an effing punk, he clearly was very hostile to Trayvon Martin, a total stranger to him. Just seeing him walking while black down the street, every time that he called about a suspicious person in the neighborhood before this, it was about an African-American person. So I think the prosecution could put all of that together. They still have to rebut the self-defense. They do that by establishing all the inconsistencies in Zimmerman's testimony. One of the biggest ones that jumps out at me is that Zimmerman's gun was holstered inside his pants behind him, and yet he claims he was down on his back with Trayvon Martin on top of him, and Trayvon Martin saw the gun and reached for the gun. So unless Trayvon Martin had x-ray vision and could see through his body to a gun that was behind him, I don't know how that works. So I think the prosecution has made a pretty good case for Murder 2. Having said that, as I said, I'm still going to hear the defense out and hear what they have to say.
Lisa Bloom, very interesting. Not what I thought you would say. And of course, when you talk about George Zimmerman shooting Trayvon Martin through the heart, clearly he's trying to kill him and not just to get him off of him with a shot somewhere lower. We have more lawyers here than an ABA party. Ari Melber is also an attorney. So I want to hear your thoughts. Has the prosecution made its case?
Look, I think when you look at these issues as a journalist or someone covering the case, and you see all this information accrue, you want justice to be done, and you see what feels like a tremendous injustice in the killing of Trayvon Martin, unarmed minor. As a lawyer, though, once we've now seen the end of the prosecution's argument, they still get to make their closing statement. But they have to carry this burden across. And as a lawyer, I don't see at all how they have met their burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this was a deliberate killing with malice, a second-degree murder under Florida law. I do not think they've carried that burden at all. And so that's my legal view of the case. And when I say that, what I mean by that is, have they proven it beyond a reasonable doubt based on the evidence presented to the jury? This jury does not know everything about Mr. Zimmerman's past and will not. So based on the evidence presented, I do not think they've connected those dots and defeated the doubts. The manslaughter charge is much closer because it goes to justification and the murkiness of this conflict. And that's something where I think there'll be a lot more debate. And that's a serious charge that carries up to 15 years. The last thing I'll say is the reason why so many people have followed this case closely is because we have a justice system that in many parts of America does not value the lives of black men and women in the same way that it values and investigates a similar or exactly the same situation for white Americans. That's something that we could spend a lot more time on. My view of that and my concern for that, however, does not alter the legal and precise judgment you have to make in a case like this where the prosecution hasn't met the burden to date.
Very interesting. Reasonable people with ideas all over the map. We'll be right back with more from the George Zimmerman trial.
It's simple physics. A body at rest tends to stay at rest, while a body in motion tends to stay in motion. Staying active can actually ease arthritis symptoms, but if you have arthritis, staying active can be difficult. Prescription Celebrex can help relieve arthritis pain so your body can stay in motion. Because just one 200 milligram Celebrex a day can provide 24-hour relief for many with arthritis pain and inflammation. Plus, in clinical studies, Celebrex is proven to improve daily physical function so moving is easier. Celebrex can be taken with or without food, and it's not a narcotic. You and your doctor should balance the benefits with the risks. All prescription NSAIDs like Celebrex, ibuprofen, naproxen, and meloxicam have the same cardiovascular warning. They all may increase the chance of heart attack or stroke, which can lead to death. This chance increases if you have heart disease or risk factors such as high blood pressure or when NSAIDs are taken for long periods. NSAIDs like Celebrex increase the chance of serious skin or allergic reactions or stomach and intestine problems such as bleeding and ulcers, which can occur without warning and may cause death. Patients also taking aspirin and the elderly are at increased risk for stomach bleeding and ulcers. Don't take Celebrex if you have bleeding in the stomach or intestine or had an asthma attack, hives, other allergies to aspirin, NSAIDs, or sulfonamides. Get help right away if you have swelling of the face or throat or trouble breathing. Tell your doctor your medical history and find an arthritis treatment for you. Visit Celebrex.com and ask your doctor about Celebrex for a body in motion.
Some people like to pretend a flood could never happen to them, and that their homeowner's insurance protects them. It doesn't. Stop pretending. Only flood insurance covers floods. Visit floodsmart.gov/pretend to learn your risk.
The Times salutes July 4th with our best sale of the summer. It's the New York Times Independence Day sale, now through July 8th. Call or click now to save 50% for 16 full weeks on the subscription of your choice. Choose digital and get unlimited access on the devices you use most. Or get convenient home delivery of the world's finest newspaper, and the digital comes free. Either way, you'll save 50% for 16 weeks on the definitive stories, insightful opinion, and innovative multimedia that make the Times so valuable. This offer is available for a limited time only, so act now. Go to nytimes.com/sale today or call 1-800-908-6500 to save 50% for 16 weeks on a digital or home delivery subscription and experience more than the news. Experience the Times. Take advantage of the Times Independence Day sale, now through July 8th only.
Endless Wings at Golden Corral just got better.
You bet it did. It's Endless Wings, and now all you can eat fall off the bone baby back ribs.
This is one great deal.
Best idea ever.
No other place would even think about that.
Only Golden Corral brings you all you can eat wings, including buffalo, spicy garlic, and Tennessee barbecue wings, and a mountain of incredible baby back ribs.
Hello.
It's all part of our endless dinner buffet for one amazingly low price. Non-stop wings and now endless baby back ribs, only at Golden Corral.
Somebody better bring me a bib.
Welcome back to The Cycle. We're still following the George Zimmerman trial. Lisa, I want to bring you back in here. A question that I asked Seema earlier. What do you think, how likely is it that the defense will call Tracy Martin, Trayvon Martin's father, and two, what would that mean? Would you advise them to do that?
You know, that Seema Iyer is a very good trial lawyer. And I think she made a very good argument. You don't need to put him on now. You've heard from two witnesses who told you that he heard the recording and he said, it's not my son. I mean, why put him on? I mean, maybe the defense will do that just for the sake of completeness, but it's really not necessary at this point.
Okay, we're going back to the trial. Tracy Martin has been called.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
State your name, please.
Tracy Benjamin Martin.
And, of course, you're Trayvon Martin's father.
Yes.
You've been here for the testimony throughout the trial, correct?
Correct.
Including today when we had a couple of officers testifying about an event where you had gone to meet with Investigator Chris Serino at Sanford Police Department.
Correct.
Remember that?
Yes.
Do you remember the event itself, having gone down there? I believe you went with Brandy Green?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have a conversation with Officer Serino about why he wanted you down at the station?
Yeah, initially, we were going down to the police department to make sure that he had verified that Trayvon had been identified. Detective Serino didn't bring me to the station. I actually went to the station myself.
Okay. With Ms. Green?
Correct.
And at some point, you did go back to his sort of office cubicle area and listen to some tapes, is that correct?
Correct.
My understanding is, from my knowledge of the discovery, was that you listened to a number of tapes, one of which was the tape that we're identifying as the Lauer 911 call, correct?
Yes.
And he did play that for you?
Yes.
And were you listening to it as he played it for you?
Yes.
Understand that it was difficult to listen to. It included the shot that ended your son's life, correct?
Yes.
At the end of that tape, do you recall Officer Serino asking you whether or not you could identify your son's voice?
Not those exact words, but some to that nature, yes.
Okay. Do you recall the words as best you can recall that he used?
As best as I recall, after he played the tape, he basically just said, "Do you recognize the voice?"